Hi, this is Anonymous Bells. I'm Megan Turner with Colleen Alice here, and we're talking about pet peeves today. This is our second time recording. Our first one didn't really work out. I think Colleen's video wasn't, yeah, it was my fault, but we're re-recording. We might say something different this time, I think. Um, and yeah, so we're going to talk about kind of editorial pet peeves and things that kind of bother us in the editorial process. And Colleen, the first question is about editorial, like your sort of like little pet peeves that aren't really major things, but things that still annoy you, I guess.
Yeah. And for some reason, Megan and I maybe subconsciously both wore black today. We're grieving our pet peeves. This was like not planned. I don't know. It's also like the heart of winter and just extremely
Yeah,
cold and bitter today.
we should be in bright colors, but we're
I know,
not.
I know. Total accident. But I guess I would say I like this question because I do think, I tell people I'm an editor and I write, and I feel like I'm always quick to point out like that's good. Like it's
Mhm.
great to be both sides of the coin because I really do, and I don't know if people think I'm just being cliche, but I'm like, I know I learn every manuscript I read,
Mhm.
everything I read, I learn something,
Yeah,
big or small, or I see what to do and what not to do. And I just find it so valuable to read widely. And so that's a long way to answer the question that, like, the things that I see that annoy me, I pull up my Word document and I'm like, yep, look at me doing it. I'm doing the same things. And so I can kind
yeah.
of really reflect. And if I notice, like, I'm just going to make up an example, like, oh, there's so many dialogue tags in this novel. Everything is she said, he said, she said, he said. And then I'll look at my control F find and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got, 20 in this chapter. Do I need that many? So that's like a small thing is just noticing like these little ticks that we all do. And everyone's got I know what mine are now, but they become like if I'm reading a book and usually I'm pretty early in and I can like, oh, I know what this author's tick is. Like for example, they overtake dialogue
Mhm.
or they the other thing people do with dialogue, right? Like everything is like she giggled, he intimated, she
Yeah.
had like, oh my God, this is a lot going on. But yeah, so those kind of small things, they
Yeah.
add up to big things too.
Yeah. I think that's what you said last time. I kind of remember
Okay,
you
good.
saying.
Good. I'm glad I'm consistent.
And I think that's kind of interesting because the he said, she said does not really bother me. And I feel like I do it and it just doesn't really bother me. And I kind of just, I think the way that I was taught to do it, just sort of like, I just sort of skim over that. And it's just like, okay, that's there as information if I need it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's interesting what you said about like being a writer and an editor because I think like a lot of people don't have both of those. They aren't doing both of those things. And actually, when I started in publishing, when I was at one of the big publishing houses, they kind of said, we don't want people to be writing and we want them to either be one or the other. And I was like, wow, that's kind of weird. Like I thought that was kind of limiting in a way. Um, so yeah, I think it does help you to be able to do both. For me, at least, like as like you said, like as I'm reading, I'm like, oh yeah, do I do this, or is this something that I could use in my own work, or is this something I avoid, or it teaches you to be a better reader and writer. Um, I think my minor pet peeves are related more to like sort of formatting and kind of
Yeah.
one thing. I think I said I don't like single spacing last time, which I think is now kind of dumb, but I think the other thing that I don't like is that I think when an author hasn't really like checked their work, like there's a lot of spelling mistakes or like a lot of grammatical errors that they could have caught that aren't like, everyone makes like a little mistake here and there, but like if you're in Word and like every other like word in there is underlined, like you didn't check spelling. And that seems like pretty easy to check before you like send it off because it's like already being sort of done for you.
Mhm.
Um, and so yeah, for me, I think that's like sort of careless mistakes that like I feel like if you're at the point where you're going to an editor or you're going to a publishing house that you should have already checked those things. And I think it like sort of sends a bad impression when you haven't done that yet. Especially, and I think that's what they sort of say when you're sort of looking for an agent or a publishing house. And like one of the reasons they reject off like right away is that it's, there's all these like mistakes, they should have, that the author should have caught. So I
Yeah.
kind of agree with that one. And I don't think it has to be like really super anal and like, yeah, sometimes you make a mistake. Sometimes something's misspelled or you use the wrong word. Like that happens. But like for every like word in like every other word, to be underlined or, it's a spelling mistake, I think that's sort of careless. So yeah, that sounded harsher than yours.
Yeah. No, no. No, I've been evangelizing, you know this, about listening. And when I
Yeah,
listen to my work, I just catch so many of those little errors.
yeah,
And I've been recommending to authors like listen to it.
yeah,
I mean, by the time I've read their first draft, it's too late, but before they revise, I'm like, give it a listen if you
yeah,
can. It's
yeah,
tedious to do that. It takes hours, but you will hear I can't believe what I hear.
right.
All those little mistakes too.
Typos and things. Yeah,
And you can hear typos. Yeah,
yeah,
not every kind, not,
yeah.
homophones or whatever, but like a lot of them you can hear.
Yeah, I understand it more if it's like, oh, they used the wrong word and it doesn't, or sometimes like for some reason, like Word will like underline something as a misspelling, but like if it's in Google, it won't, or like vice versa. So I don't know. I mean, there are little things like that, but I think in general to have like checked your work, it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. What is our real pet peeve? Like the
Well,
big actual pet peeve that bothers us. I don't
Well,
know.
that's a good segue because one time, I think it was my first novel, I ran it through Grammarly, and Grammarly was like, "You write tautologically," and I was like, "Excuse me, what does that mean?" And then Grammarly was like, "You keep saying the same things two different ways," and I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh my gosh, I
yeah,
really do."
yeah.
So I'm a wordy writer, I'm a wordy drafter. My task
Mhm.
is always cut, 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 cut.
Yeah.
Um, but now that I know that, I look at, so I guess this is my answer to that question. I see those opportunities for other writers,
Mhm.
and I'll see like whole paragraphs where it's like, yeah, you don't need this. I know it feel and I know the feeling. I know it feels like you do need it, and
Yeah.
it's well written and it's like lovely, but it's like you don't need that.
Hmm.
The book I'm reading last night, there was like two paragraphs about this girl going running or whatever, and I was like, see, I don't think
Hmm.
we needed every beat of this. You could have done
Yeah.
this in one sentence, and this writer did it in 10, and I finished the chapter and I was like certain I was right. I was like, yeah, you didn't need and so that I know it's a little different than a tautology, but like overwriting,
Hmm.
just like not, and it goes to the idea that you got to trust your reader, that like you said it once and they got it, and you don't
Hmm.
need to be like, did you get it though? But like seriously, you need to know,
Yeah.
you need to know this later. Like, really, did you get it? And so like just
Yeah.
trusting the reader, not saying something twice, three times. I say things like four times. And then, what do you really need? And in revision, cut, 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 cut.
Hmm.
What you don't need so much.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like a judgment call, and sometimes you can say, like, maybe someone would say, yeah, cut this, and someone else would say, no, keep it. And
Mhm.
sometimes that's something I keep an eye out for. Like, if we have in our group four editors, or, and two of them say, cut this, and someone says, don't, like sometimes there is that kind of like, oh, okay, you know, I have to kind of trust my instinct here. But I think in general, you're right. Like, it feels like, the repetition stuff and the kind of like constantly reminding the reader of things. Um, yeah, I think it's something that you get better at with time. And it's interesting because I think some writers are the opposite of that, and they are like they're so short, like they have to really expand. I'm not that way, and I don't think you're that way, but like where they've written like a story and it's only 500 words and it needs to be like, double that or triple that or whatever. So um, it's I feel like we all have our own things, like our own strengths. I don't know.
Yeah.
My pet peeve, I think what I said last time was point of view, and we've talked a lot about point of view. So I don't know if I should really talk too much more about it. I feel like, I think it does depend on the circumstances of the book and what how the book is written, because someone did point this out to me recently, like if it's like more of a distant third, maybe you don't have that issue and you don't, but like usually like a close third or a first manuscript, like it needs to stick with that character. And if it's like switching around all the time, that head hopping thing we've talked about, um, that really kind of irritates me. So
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I mean, it does depend on the book and like what kind of book you're trying to write. And I think that's again something that you get better with. Sorry, that you get better with as a writer over time. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I don't want to go on too much about it because we've talked about it before.
That's okay.
Um,
Can,
yeah,
can
but
I
I
share
think that's
one
sure.
more
Go ahead.
anecdote that I just think is funny?
Yeah.
I won't go into detail, but I entered a writing contest and the feedback, I didn't win, and the feedback I got was like some reader said, I don't like when you talk too much about the characters eating and drinking. I was so mad. I was like, that's what you do. So
Yeah.
like that was that reader's pet peeve, right? And that
Yeah.
reader got really annoyed. In my defense, it took place at a bar and the drinking was important to the plot,
Yeah.
in my opinion, because one character gets progressively more buzzed. But the
Yeah.
reader didn't like that I kept talking about this one little thing. And it just goes to show you, I think, that like we all have our little things in our writing.
Yeah, and I mean that, and someone else could look at that and say, well, that just that it's nice to have that action, or it's nice to have something that they're doing in the scene, or So I think we all have like things that like our preferences, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like sometimes a stylistic issue, but sometimes it's not, and sometimes it is a real like, okay, this is really repetitious, or this is really switching like all over the place, and it's hard to follow, or So there are real things that are I
Yeah.
think are consistently people are going to say. And that's one thing that I think that you look for as a writer and as an editor are these like things that are consistently coming up and like this is a pattern and it's not just like someone's personal preference. It's like an actual like this is something that this author is struggling with,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, it stayed with me because now in my scenes, I'm like, well, don't talk about the food or the beverage. So I've
Yeah,
tried
I
to
mean, I
not
think it
talk
depends on
about
like how long you go on about it, but
yeah. And like, is that just what I'm interested in? I'm always hungry and like, I don't know
yeah,
what
no,
it's
I mean, I've
about.
had feedback before that I'm sometimes like, wow, that seems really off or that's not right but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but I don't know if we answered our questions about pet peeves.
Pet peeves.
I feel like maybe we'll have to like compare and contrast to the previous recording we did. I feel like it was a really good one, the first one, and that so I was really like, oh, we should keep it, but it looked a mess.
Yeah,
Colleen was like
fair.
a still the whole time.
Yes.
So anyway, yeah, I guess next time we'll be on to another topic. But until that time, I guess keep reading and writing, and we'll talk to you next time, right?
Yeah, stay warm and stay sane. So,
Okay.
all
Yeah, next time.
right. Thanks, Megan.